Naval divers were working on the propellers of the HMAS Toowoomba. Now, it was operating off the Japanese coast. It was on a UN sanctioned mission. It was in international waters, but still within Japan's exclusive economic zone. Some fishing nets had become caught in its propeller, requiring the divers to go down there and try to free those nets. All the standard warnings were issued, according to the Australian government, to vessels in the surrounding area that there were divers in the waters, but despite that, they say a Chinese warship began encroaching on them, began coming closer. Further warnings were issued directly to that warship, but despite those warnings being received and acknowledged, a hull-mounted sonar system began being operated. Now, this is a system that essentially emits a loud ping. It's used to find and track submarines, and we understand those sonar pings have caused minor injuries to these Australian divers. When they came to the surface, they were found to have suffered these minor injuries, and in the experts of naval medical professionals, they were likely caused by these sonar pings. So the Australian government has expressed its real concern with the Chinese government about this incident. It's describing it as unsafe and unprofessional.
Now, Tom, this also comes after a recent improvement in the relationship with China.
Yeah, this is interesting. It could be a bit of a step back after some recent steps forward. Of course, we've discussed a lot in the past few years the significant tensions really with China over the past few years, particularly on the trade front. But we have seen an improvement in those relations of late. Anthony Albanese recently became the first Australian Prime Minister in 7 years to visit mainland China, sitting down for talks in Beijing with President Xi Jinping. He described those as talks of goodwill. Even more recently than that, the President Xi Jinping has been in the United States meeting with the US President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the APEC summit in San Francisco, where those two leaders agreed to resume military-to-military talks. So you would think a bit of perhaps a shift in approach from China to countries like Australia and the United States just in the past few weeks. So I suppose it remains to be seen if this incident is something that can be written off perhaps as a misunderstanding, or if it is something more significant than that, perhaps a bit of a step back.